Hey guys, another video for our Wheels in Japan playlist. As many of you already know, and as we've showed you on previous videos, bicycles are a very popular form of transportation in Japan, and that's usually how they're seen, as a practical form of transportation. So usually the bicycles are pretty boring, usually they're mamachari or something similar, so fairly sensible, boring sort of couple of wheels with handlebars, used as a practical way of getting around. People normally dress how they need to dress for the task at hand. So if they're off to school, they're wearing a school uniform. If they're off to work, they might be wearing a suit, or the farmer might be going off to his little farm wearing his going to the farm clothes. So they just wear whatever they happen to be wearing, going wherever they happen to be going. Practical bike, practical clothing, off they go. So that's what we're used to seeing. However, in Japan over the last few years, there's been a huge boom in the triathlons and also cycling, competitive road cycling and that sort of thing. So it's really becoming really common everywhere we go now to come across really serious cyclists. So instead of scenes like that old guy there and this lady here, we are often coming across a contrast, which is this scene here. So with all the seriously expensive bicycles and the Lycra and the tap shoes. Yeah, we know they're not tap shoes, but they do sound like it, don't they? On a hard surface. But this scene is getting more and more common. We're seeing pretty well 7 days a week, and then obviously lots more on the weekend. So big groups like this, and pairs, individuals. So it's sort of interesting. Obviously it's just another sport for a lot of people, so that's a good thing. It's a bit tricky sometimes in Japan because of the roads. Quite often there's not quite enough space for them, so it can be a bit scary sometimes, trying to squeeze past. The fear of hitting the cyclist or hitting a car coming the other way tends to be a bit of a worry. And this is relatively new. Probably 5 or 10 years ago, it would be pretty rare to see a serious road cyclist cruising around with the Lycra and the helmet and the expensive bike. Of course they existed back then. Here we've got a bunch of serious guys on the right hand side, and just a practical cyclist going to the shop or going to work or something on the left hand side. That's always really interesting too. Such a contrast. The person who's just cycling to get somewhere compared to the cyclists who are taking it all very seriously, and they've shaved their legs and they've got their tap shoes on. So now, of course, here's a scene that we've used to in Japan for hundreds of years, probably. Bicycles just lined up like this outside the train station. And again, the practical application. So this is what we're used to seeing, bicycles parked, lined up and parked like this, on their stands, which are apparently heavy things, stands. So of course the serious cyclists don't like the bike stands, do they? So what we're seeing is an increase in the road bike, the racing bike type stands, which again we'd never seen in Japan before, but recently they seem to be everywhere. So there's one outside a fairly trendy restaurant, actually fairly upmarket, old style restaurant, bit expensive, and they put that at the front there for the cyclists. Interesting, we don't often see bikes on them, but they've put them out for them. There's popular sweet shop, traditional Japanese sweets, mochi and things like that, and they've actually got 4 sets of them out there, expecting a lot of cyclists to come their way. Here's a funny one. The guy's parked it underneath the stand thing, but he's got a kickstand because it's the old style bike, it's not a racing bike. And here we've actually found one. Here's a racing bike actually hooked up on one. There you go. So they do use them. So it's just interesting. We're not used to it. You know, it's only a relatively new development. There's another one on a stand parked underneath the racing bike stand. So we only managed to find one that was hung up. And here's another one. He's left his bike against the pole and just over the other side of the car park is the racing bike stand that he just decided not to use anyway. There it is over there, all empty. So it's sort of interesting. It's just a new thing for us to see, and no doubt if you come to Japan you'll see it too. Anyway, there it was. More videos coming soon.